Halloween Exposed by Mark Flynn. A special thanks goes out to Mark Flynn for allowing me to share his article and his information with everybody. Recently, Mark Flynn, author of Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth, posted an article that exposes the origins of Halloween, and he was gracious enough to allow me to share it and talk about it here. You can check out the whole article and his entire blog at his website, www.markaflynn.com. That's MarkAFLYNN.com, and I have the links in the description as well. All right, so this is really interesting because there are quite a few Christians who celebrate Halloween, and this was a topic that I discussed with Doc Marquis in a recent episode of the Sharpening Report. I also included the link to that in the description below. Um, it's an interesting topic. So this article, I thought it was very well written. There's a lot of great information, and Mark's given me permission to just share it with you guys. So that's what I'm going to do. Um, and please go to his website, check out his blog, get his book. I did an interview with Mark Flynn as well on the Sharpening Report. You can check that out too. I'll have that in the description. He's got a lot of great information. Okay, so this article says Halloween is celebrated on the vigil of the Roman Catholic feast of All Hallowtide, which means saint and tide or time of season, on October 31st. The 3 days, Halloween, which is October 31st, All Saints, which is November 1st, and All Souls, which is November 2nd, are dedicated to the remembrance of the dead, including saints, martyrs, and all the faithful departed believers. October 31st was also the beginning of the Gaelic festival Samhain, and occurred halfway between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice. Cattle were brought down from the summer pastures and slaughtered for the winter among great bonfires. And he writes in here, bone plus fires. This practice was similar to the Roman festival of Pallas, when cattle were, I don't know if that's Palace or Pales. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. When cattle were actually driven through the bonfires during Samhain, it was believed that spirits had the opportunity to visit the world of the living. Feasts were held, and the souls of dead relatives were invited. Today, Halloween includes trick or treating or guising to appear or go in disguise. Children dressed in mask and costumes travel from house to house asking for candy with the phrase trick or treat. The trick is the inferred threat of performing some type of mildly destructive mischief if no treat is given. Guising was also a part of the Samhain festival. Guising or souling on October 31st existed in Great Britain and Ireland long before Halloween was observed in the United States. Masqueraders carrying lanterns made out of scooped out turnips visited homes requesting cakes, fruit, and money. The religious festival of the ancient world still endures a shadow in modern tradition. Sometimes the dates have changed or practices observed from different festivals have amalgamated. The celebration of Halloween is a good example of this type of change over time. Guising or trick or treating has parallels to the antics of the participants of the quintessential masquerade festival celebrated in ancient Rome uh, world during the spring equinox known as Hilaria. And then he has a link here that says See Equinox Parallels, the Georgia Guidestones, a feast of Sybil and Halloween. Um, that goes to something else on his website, another post. So make sure you check that out. Halloween also mimics the ancient Roman feast of Lemuria, observed in on the 9th, 11th, and 13th of May. The lemures, from the singular larvae, meaning mask, also ghost or specter, were shades or spirits of the restless dead. Romans performed rites to exorcise the malevolent and fearful ghosts of the dead from their homes. Ovid notes that at this festival it was the custom to appease or expel the evil spirits by walking barefoot and throwing black beans over the shoulder at night. It was the head of the household who was responsible for getting up at midnight and walking around the house with bare feet, throwing out black beans, and repeating the incantation, I send these, with these beans I redeem me and mine. uh, 9 times. The household would then clash bronze pots while repeating, "Ghosts of my fathers and ancestors be gone," 9 times. The Vestal virgins prepared sacred salted flour cakes, or mola salsa, from the first ears of wheat of the season as offerings to the dead. And today, in parts of England, soul cakes or har cakes are made for All Hallows Eve and given out to solars or geysers. They were traditionally set out with glasses of wine. During the Lunar New Year or Spring Festival, Setsubun, the Japanese mimicked the Roman Lemuria bean throwing ritual. The head of the household throws fortune beans either out the door or at a member of the family wearing an oni, or demon or ogre mask, while saying "demons out, luck in," and then slams the front door of the house. The beans are thought to symbolically purify the home by driving away the evil spirits that bring misfortune and bad health. Similar to Roman mola salsa, offerings to the dead, rice cakes or kagimi mochi. Thank you, Mark Flynn, for putting all these really hard to pronounce words in your article. So those rice cakes are placed in various locations throughout the house. The New Year's rice cakes are also placed in small decorative alcoves in the main room of the home. The Halloween Fall Festival is intriguing since it corresponds to the same season as the beginning of the Great Flood. I'm just going to take a pause here and note that this is really interesting because actually the very first time that this was ever brought to my attention, believe it or not, was from a Jehovah's Witness. They came to our door, as they do, and usually before then, we would just say we're not interested and send them on their way. But this time we decided that we were going to try to share the gospel with them and see, how they took it. And they were really nice people, and so we had a few talks and everything, uh, and it eventually got to the point where we both realized we weren't going to convert the other. I think so. They kind of stopped coming around. But during our talks, uh, one of them had mentioned this thing about the flood, and that if you look at the date, she said, yeah, check out the date, check it out on the Jewish calendar and see what that corresponds to. And she didn't really tell me what it was, but so I did it, and it's Halloween, and that was interesting, and I vetted it and everything. It's true. It's a real thing. I don't think the Jehovah's Witnesses like came up with that or anything. That just happens to be one thing that they will say that has some truth to it. So, but anyway, so that the whole connection between Halloween and the Great Flood is really interesting. And then so Mark Flynn brings this up in his article, and I haven't heard too many people talk about it. So that's really cool. Okay, so back to the article. It says the Halloween Fall Festival is intriguing since it corresponds to the same season as the beginning of the Great Flood. The Old Testament gives the exact day. 7 Marsheshvan. I am not a Hebrew scholar and do not speak the language, so I'm sure I butchered that. But it literally means eighth month. Sometimes shortened to Sheshvan is the second month of the civil year, which starts on first Tishrei, and the eighth month of the ecclesiastical year, which starts on 1 Nisan on the Hebrew calendar. It's an autumn month which occurs in October to November in the Gregorian calendar. Okay, so Genesis 7:11 says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened." Uh, so 17 Cheshvan falls on October 30th this year. Then he has a quote here from David Flynn's Watcher website, and for those who might not know, Dave Flynn was Mark's twin brother, a brilliant, brilliant researcher. He wrote some really good books. His website's still up, so check out his materials too. Unfortunately, he passed away in early 2012, but his research is still out there, and Mark has kind of picked up the mantle, and he's continuing on. So it's fantastic from both Dave and Mark. Really good research. But so he has a quote in here from Dave Flynn, which says, the word which is translated giants in the King James Version of the Bible in Hebrew, Nephilim, which means those who fell or the fallen ones. Jude, the brother of Jesus, described them as angels having left their first estate in heaven. These fallen angels came to earth for a serious purpose. The fallen ones sought to merge with the bloodline of Adam because of the promise to send a redeemer through Adam's kinsman. The Hebrew says that the sons of God saw that the women were a fit extension, for they sought to extend themselves into this realm from the spirit realm, as well as to extend themselves into the children of promise, the lineage of Adam. Satan tried to prevent the eventual birth in the distant future of the Messiah. The mating of human beings with angels resulted in hybrid creatures, evil spirits with human bodies. The human angel hybrids began to corrupt and destroy the human race, resulting in the deluge, the end of all flesh, except Noah and his family. The Bible uses other names to describe these abominations and their descendants. In addition to the word Nephilim, they are Rephaim, from the root word Rapha, spirits, Genesis 14:5, Anakim, the prideful ones, Numbers 13 and 28 through 33, Amim, the proud deserters, Genesis 14:5, Zuzim, the evil ones, Numbers 14:5, Zamzumim, the evil plotters, Deuteronomy 2:20, Zophim, the watchers, Daniel 4:17, Numbers 23, the Seraphim, which means the many. So over 1,000 years, the Nephilim corrupted the earth and oppressed mankind. The Bible states that the giants existed before the flood, and even after that time, Genesis 6:4. This contradicts tradition, but is historically upheld in accounts in Exodus, where descendants of the Nephilim are encountered in Cana by the Israelites. The apocryphal Book of Enoch, a 1st century BC extra biblical manuscript, quoted by Jude and John, details events of the fallen angels. It describes their punishment and even their names. Some of the Nephilim perished, at least their bodies perished, beneath the waters of the flood. The leaders of this rebellious act were chained until Judgment Day at various locations in the earth. Jude and John also relate this account. Job 26:5 in the KJV states, "Dead things are formed under the waters." This seems to imply that men were killed under the waters of the deluge. The original Hebrew text relates something much more mysterious. The literal translation is, "The Rapha were made to writhe from beneath the waters." The word Rapha is only found in Scripture identifying the fallen angels and is never used to denote the human dead anywhere in the Old Testament. The historical basis for the interpretation of Genesis 6 as an account of fallen angels is consistent. Philo, Josephus, Epiphanius, Hilarius, and some other examples. So the similar religious practices of ancient Rome and the undiscerning modern world are from a common origin. Specifically, the bean throwing ritual, the Roman is closer to the legend, since the head of the household actually throws the beans over the shoulder while looking ahead, is linked to the Phrygian Anatolia legend of the great flood of Deucalion and the repopulation of the earth. Then he has a quote here from his book, from Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth, from pages 70 to 71. King Deucalion's father, Prometheus, knew that Zeus was about to destroy humanity and instructed his son to build a chest so that Deucalion and his wife, Pyrrha, Greek flaming, might escape. Once the flood was over, Deucalion and Pyrrha touched solid ground on the mountain that towered over the Oracle of Delphi, Mount Parnassus, the mountain of Apollo. Uh, I'm probably not saying this right, but that's okay. You'll have to bear with me. Uh, Deucalion consulted the oracle who apparently survived the flood about what he should do to repopulate the earth. He was instructed to leave the temple and, with veiled heads and loosened clothes, throw behind you the bones of your great mother. Understanding that his mother was Gaia, Deucalion and Pyra picked up rocks. The ones thrown by Deucalion became men, and the ones from Pyra became women. Why, on that day commemorating the Great Flood, would pagan ritual include masked individuals roaming neighborhoods, seeking recognition and mollification while threatening mischief? The Nephilim were before the flood. Before the flood were, excuse me, the Nephilim before the flood wore costumes of human flesh, masking their eternal spirit. After the flood, they continue to exist, continually seeking bodily habitation before the final judgment. So then here we have Luke 8:27 through 33, which says, "And when he went forth to the land, there met him out of the city a certain man which had devils long time, and wear no clothes, neither abode in any house, but in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him, and with a loud voice said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God Most High? I beseech thee, torment me not. For he had commanded the unclean spirits to come out of the man, for oftentimes it had caught him, and he was kept bound with chains and in fetters, and he brake the bands, and was driven of the devil into the wilderness. And Jesus asked him, saying, What is thy name? And he said, Legion, because many devils were entered into him. And they besought him that he would not command them to go out into the deep. And there was there a herd of many swine feeding on the mountain, and they besought him that he would suffer them to enter into them. And he suffered them. And went the devils out of the man, and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the lake, and were choked. And that concludes the article. If you wanna check it out, again, it's at Mark Flynn's website. Um, and for the whole story, you can even head over to ministudyministry.com and check out our latest headlines on the front page. The link to this specific article is also in the descriptions below. In the description below. As I said before, Doc Marquis was also a recent guest on my show, The Sharpening Report, and he exposed the horrifying origins of Halloween as well. So make sure to check that out in the link below. If you like these type of videos, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can subscribe below or subscribe directly at youtube.com/Josh Peck Disclosure. Also, feel free to leave a comment below and let me know what you think of this article, or Halloween in general. Should we, as Christians, be celebrating it? What do you think? For a limited time, there is a giveaway at Mini Study Ministry for a donation of any amount. I will email you 5 free PDFs of my books. So for more information, you can head over to Mini Study Ministry donate page at the link below. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Take care, and God bless.